We try to bring a faithful Catholic voice to the public square. So we'll write, do media appearances. We host our own nationally syndicated radio show called Conversations with Consequences, also available as a podcast. We take turns hosting and co-hosting. Sometimes we just do a team chat with 2, 3, or 4 of us of a different topic that might be in the news right now. We address topics that are important to Catholics, not just Catholic topics, but things that national news, local news, and we bring a Catholic perspective, not necessarily only for Catholics, because we publish in mainstream publications as well as Catholic publications. But that's what we do. And it's a very collegial group. We work together, we co-author, we research for each other, and it's a really fantastic setup. And it's built for women who are primarily moms so that we can do both and we don't have to step out of the game.
So you are a prolific writer and you're a fellow at the Catholic Association. Can you just share a little bit about your mission there?
Sure. We are 4 women, moms. One of us is a young grandmother. We try to bring a faithful Catholic voice to the public square. So we'll write, do media appearances. We host our own nationally syndicated radio show called Conversations with Consequences, also available as a podcast. We take turns hosting and co-hosting. Sometimes we just do a team chat with 2, 3, or 4 of us of a different topic that might be, in the news right now. We address topics that are important to Catholics, not just Catholic topics, but, things that, national news, local news and we bring a Catholic perspective, not necessarily only for Catholics, because we publish in mainstream publications as well as Catholic publications. But that's what we do. And it's a very collegial group. We work together, we co-author, we research for each other, and it's a really fantastic setup, and it's built for women who are primarily moms, and so that we can do both, and we don't have to step out of the game.
Wonderful. Do you have a sense for what kind of impact that's had?
We're growing. We're getting more social media savvy. Our Twitter feed has been really picking up lately. 2 of our team, we're 4, 2 of our team were in Rome for the conclave.
Cool.
And did some hits on ABC and NBC and I think Fox News, a lot of EWTN, of course. They're good friends of ours. And were quoted extensively. Ashley McGuire, my colleague, was, I think, quoted in both the New York Times, the New York Post, maybe even the Washington Post. My other colleague, Mary Fiorito, too. We are stepping into Substack, but we're figuring that out exactly how we want that to look. But we're hoping it'll be some more hot takes from us on, minute by the minute news rather than having to wait for us to, write a piece and then place it. And, we'll be able to, shoot out something quick on our Substack for our readers.
So how do you balance being a mom and doing all the writing that you do with various outlets and especially the Catholic Association?
Well, I have a very supportive husband who also, as a professor, has a flexible schedule. He's actually been on sabbatical this year, and he's also, we're both writing books this year. And so we've both been home, which has been great. We do have some childcare help. You just keep throwing balls in the air and, just keep sticking your arms out to catch them. And it works. This year, too, speaking of the collegiality of the Women of the Catholic Association, since I am writing a book and I'm almost done and it'll be coming out early next year with Sophia Institute Press, my colleagues have really picked up the slack for me. I haven't done much hosting of the radio show, except when it pertains to something related to my book. I think once I was a guest on our own radio show as a way to, keep me relevant, but not, put extra burdens on me to prepare for a guest. And I've stepped back a little bit from the editorial writing.
What's your book about?
Infertility from a Catholic perspective.
Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. I had a couple, 2 or 3 pieces in the National Catholic Register that, I think saying things went viral is kind of an overused term at this point, but it was really, really well received. And I think a lot of women and even couples and even priests reached out to me and said, hey, this is important. This is real. Thank you for writing this. Thank you for writing this. Priest said, I'm going to keep this on file to give to the people who come to me because sometimes I don't know what to say. And then I just had another mentor of mine just said to me, Leigh, this is your book. And so I went putting together a proposal. And then Sophia Institute Press picked it up. And so here I am, almost done. It's somewhat autobiographical. I sort of use our path is, we got married young and we've never been pregnant once. And we had, some ups and downs. We adopted our 4 children, and we were still in the process of trying to conceive. And I've interviewed several women. Somehow we have found each other across the universe, other Catholic women who have suffered from infertility, because everyone's got a kind of different flavor. Some people don't find marriage until maybe they're in their 40s. So that's, different than someone in their 20s experienced infertility. Or some people have had medical conditions where they've had to have a very, very early hysterectomy and then have permanent infertility at a young age. So I want anyone who sort of picks up the book to be able to see themselves in it. I'm pretty real about feelings of jealousy, feelings of inadequacy. I have an imaginary character that I had invented in the days of, really, really sort of being sad and really desperately wanting to be pregnant and not getting pregnant. And she was called Fertile Myrtle. She was basically a super devout Catholic supermodel. And she could just get pregnant. And I was really worried my husband was going to find her and leave me for her. I had dreams about Fertile Myrtle. So I try to keep it real. I try to keep it a heavy subject. I try to lighten it up a little bit with just like a conversation. But also reminding people of the church's teaching on, say, like artificial reproductive technologies and explaining naprotechnology and things like that.
If people want to find Fertile Myrtle, where would they look?
Oh, she was a figment of my imagination. So they could, I guess.
That was a joke. Sorry.
Sunday, I was like, wait a minute, what did I say when I introduced Fertile Myrtle to make him think she is real? Or, I've actually stashed her in the basement so she can wreak her fertile havoc on the husband.
It just turned into a Stephen King novel.
Right. Yeah, I'll be one of those documentaries, true crime. Yeah.
So you've been featured on a bunch of different outlets. Mm-hmm. What was your process for getting access to those?
We have, the Catholic Association, we have a media team that places our pieces. Like, sometimes a lot of times it's also friends. We can just get directly to them, like, I've got a piece or I've got an idea for a piece. Do you think you'll, I have room for that this week? Has the news cycle moved on? We'll send out feelers like that. A lot of us have been in sort of like the Catholic policy media stuff circles for a long time. And so we know a lot of each other, so we know people at some different outlets. But usually it's just a matter of getting your piece done and making a good point. And then our media team pitches it to different outlets. And you just hope for the best. And sometimes it doesn't get picked up, and then it was just a good exercise.
Well, I think it's really cool that y'all found a niche where you can be moms and you can contribute to society in a more public way. I've had a guest on my show, Erica Commissar, who speaks about the danger of being away from your baby for extended periods of time. So I'm not in principle opposed to moms working. What I'm opposed to is moms being away from their babies for long periods of time. And it sounds like y'all found a way to balance that.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think when my youngest is 3, and I had been with the Catholic Association about a year, but immediately it was understood that I wouldn't even be joining in our weekly Zoom calls, for a few months. And then he often still joins me on the Zoom calls. Yeah, it's nice. Everybody works from home. We don't travel a lot. We're not away from our families. And, if something comes up and you were committed to do something, all you have to do is say the word, this is happening. I can't do it. Like, my kid forgot their lunch at home and I had to take it to school. I can't record the podcast today. And that's enough. That's enough, because we're all moms and we all understand.
I want to get to more specifics of what the Catholic Association covers. You said you're covering news for faithful Catholics. Mm-hmm. What do you think are the issues that you most want to highlight for faithful Catholics? What are the biggest challenges that our world faces that y'all want to address?
Yeah, I think, we really concentrate a lot on abortion legislation and abortion news, I guess. We try to highlight the positive. For instance, my colleague Ashley McGuire and I wrote a piece maybe a year and a half ago, maybe just a year ago. Anyway, and it got published in Newsweek, and it was around the time that the Britney Spears memoir had come out. So this is sort of where we engage with the culture while, representing Catholic values. And she talked about how tragically she had suffered from a medical abortion in her bathroom.
Oh my gosh.
It was heartbreaking. And you think this gazillion-dollar pop star, you'd imagine that she'd have some sort of luxury abortion suite at a private hospital. But there she was suffering alone in the bathroom. And we used that to highlight Attorney General Lynn Fitch, her program in Mississippi. And she is called Mama, and it's about empowering women and saying, or the motto is, you can do this. And so she's doing the hard work there on the ground. And we used, a popular trending news item to promote her and to, let people know the good work that she's doing. That'll be something we would do. There's been a lot of work on the misrepresentation of the complications from medical abortions. Some of my colleagues have written on that. A lot of emphasis on some of the school, required reading things that were happening in Montgomery County, Maryland. Children being, given books about all kinds of things, as preschoolers and kindergartners, and not being allowed to opt out of those lessons. Whenever there's some sort of religious liberty violation, we try to highlight that. But also if someone writes, a beautiful new book, like we've had Jennifer Houghton Wilson on our podcast a lot of times, and the podcasts tend to be a little bit more fun than some of our op-eds because it's a conversation, but it's something that really matters. We like to highlight the good work that's happening, with priests and with religious sisters, with people being married. It's really can run the gamut. Anything that sort of strikes our fancy are the things that we like to concentrate on.
This gender ideology in school is so irrational and evil and disturbing. But I sometimes wonder if it's actually a distraction from an even greater evil, which is a tyrannical one world government.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's upsetting. But yeah, tell me more about that. Tell me more about that idea.
Divide and conquer. So the devil's tool is disunity. The Holy Spirit brings unity. These hot-button issues are very controversial, very polarizing. And at the same time, they're just so irrational. The people who propose them, they don't seem to me very well educated, smart. So the question is, why are they getting so much traction?
Yeah.
And I think that those who would want an empire that extends across the whole globe in order to have a totalitarian government, they would want to put people at odds with each other to distract from the real agenda.
Well, and it's an attack on the family too, right? Which we know is the devil's playground.
Mm-hmm.
No, I can see what you're saying there. Yeah, I hadn't, I guess, thought about it beyond, saving my kid right now, the sort of immediacy of it. But yeah, I think that it's hard to know who's behind everything. So many layers.
Many layers.
The evil onion. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's another thing. I think that it's important to note too that Planned Parenthood isn't always just in the crosshairs because of its role with abortion, but also with its providing transitional drugs and hormones to people. It's a big part of their business. So that would be something we would point out too.
Good. Well, I'm glad someone's exposing these people.
Yeah.
Willie, you have some great work. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
No, you know what we do, a media eclipse every day, the Catholic Association. So if you want to go to catholicassociation.org and subscribe, you get a daily email of different mainstream media and also big Catholic media, a selection of clips. Every day it can range from maybe 6 to, when there's something big happening, like the conclave, it's going to be maybe more like 15 or 16, but it's great. I would subscribe even if I wasn't part of the Catholic Association. I would say tune in to our podcast, Conversations with Consequences, and reach out. And if you have any story ideas.
One story idea, which I'll wrap up into my last question.
Sure.
What do you think the odds that the new Pope is a closet-based Trump supporter?
I just read a fantastic piece by Kathleen Parker in the Washington Post about his brother. So I don't know. I mean, they seem like they're close. I couldn't say, it's people have kept their Trump likes or dislikes pretty close to the chest. And whether that is telling, I guess, remains to be seen.
Fair enough. Thankfully.
Right. Thank you, Jan.